Oh, just 6 more episodes away from episode number 100 as we welcome you inside Borderline alongside Bernie Neighbors. I'm Jeff McCarriger, and thanks for tuning in again this week. We've got so much to cover, and we've got a little bit to talk about today. We'll have a lot to talk about next week, I'm sure. So coming up on this episode, we'll have our first power rankings of the season. Kind of tough to do because we really haven't seen anyone play, although it really hasn't been that long. All of a sudden, here we are on the first open. And I remember last year, it seemed like it took forever for the season to get going. But this time, I'm like, all of a sudden, I'm like, wow, we were just in California. So, we'll get to see everybody coming up again this weekend. So next weekend, we'll have a lot to talk about. How you doing?
It's funny. I'm good, man. It's funny. I don't know how you are, but like there was a time there in August that I was okay with not seeing everybody for a while. You know what I mean? Like I felt like we had all been kind of around each other for, so many weeks in a row, or, you know what I mean? And then I was like, you know what? It's going to be good not to see everybody for a little bit, but now I'm having withdrawal. It's, a lot of those folks I haven't seen or heard from since. So it's going to be fun. It'll be fun to get back in the groove in the cornhole world.
Yeah, I could use a few more weeks, but
no, I mean, we talk about it. You and I talk about it, and we have our shows, but it's not the same.
Totally
It's not the same as being in the room, right? And then how about, you and I were on a call, and the way they're doing kind of a rookie combine, for a better way to, no better way to say it. That's going to be kind of funny. I'm interested to see how that all plays out.
I am too. I'm really looking forward to this weekend. But I mean, going back to your comment though, I always feel that way about every season that I broadcast. It's like I get so excited to actually call some football games, right? But as soon as I get to the end of the season, I'm like, okay, I've had enough. Ready for a break. and then I'm excited for basketball, right? And basketball's here, and it's quick and it's fast, and there's lots of games, and it's just basketball is just fun to call. But come February, early March, I'm like, I'm ready for it to be done. and then that rolls right into cornhole. And we had so many events last year. I think I haven't counted it up totally yet, but I think we had 34 separate broadcasts. Because you got to remember at the Nationals this week or this past year, we had 3, right? We had 2 teams and then the national finals. So we had 3 per weekend. So I mean, that was just 12 right there. Not to mention 5 TV appearances, 5 different separate broadcasts during the World Championships, plus all the shootouts and all the Super Bowls. So, I mean, we had a lot. So by the end of by the time we got back from California, I'm like, I mean, as much as I love it, and everyone knows how much I love it, I was like, maybe just a little bit of a break.
Oh, I forgot to tell you, I'm glad for some reason this just popped in my head. Right. I get a call, and it's so funny. The commish called me on Friday last week. And he's like, dude, I'm going to have to come on your show. You guys keep banging on me. Talking about So apparently they're watching in the HQ now. So he feels the need to come on the show and defend himself and some of the decisions. So
yeah, it's funny because he called me. I can't remember. I think I was with we were either flying or maybe I was with a client. We were flying, I think, and because we went to Minnesota for a few days, and I got his message. And he said something about. I mean, he was joking, but he's like, "Hey, thanks for throwing me underneath the bus." And I'm assuming it had something to do with the jerseys, because behind the scenes, we were talking last week about home versus road jerseys, or some sort of color distinction, so we know who's who when someone turns on the TV. And so I'm assuming it had something to do with that. But he was kind of joking. I could hear him and somebody else laughing. But as I was listening to his message, I'm like, all right, why are you listening? Because every time every time we've talked to him in the past, I mean, he pays us. He's welcome to listen, obviously, anytime he wants. But anytime that we've asked him, "Hey, did you hear this? This is a funny part." No. He's like, "Nope." And I get it. He's a busy guy. But no, that was funny. Yeah, I got a voicemail from him too. But then again, I texted him. I said, "Hey, call me back." And he was headed into a meeting, and he's like,
"By the way."
He actually did say he's like, dude, love your guys' show. So
isn't that the way it should be though? I think they were listening because they were on the road, right? They had like a 3-4 hour drive what better way to fill in a drive than Borderline?
Then listen to BoarderLine. Yeah.
That's right, folks.
By the way,
Simple.
those of you who want to watch on YouTube, you and I did. I did some research last week on this because, I just wanted to see, how, if you were to watch the show on YouTube, because some people like to watch. I mean, I know we get a lot
Sure.
of people who download the show, which is great. And I'm that way too. I love listening to podcasts. Like you and I talk about Colin Cowherd.
Hmm.
Steve Zabin's another guy that I listen to a lot. I download the podcast. But if you ever do want to watch the show, when you YouTube BoarderLine, BoarderLine, it doesn't come up. I don't know why, but for some reason, when you Google, or not Google, when you YouTube BoarderLine, it doesn't come up. So if you do want to watch on YouTube, if you Google, or if you YouTube BoarderLine ACL, then all
There
the
you
shows.
go.
So that's kind of the trigger that gets it. So it's BoarderLine, BoarderLine ACL on YouTube, and you can watch every show. And I think pretty much all of them are up there. I don't know who's posting
Yeah.
them, but someone from the ACL is supposed to come up there. So if you want to watch the show for some reason,
Yeah, if you don't put the ACL in there, pretty much they're going to think you misspelled, and they're going to throw you to Madonna videos. So
yeah, that's the first thing that comes up. Yeah, is the Madonna BoarderLine video. And then Dr. Phil. Apparently, Dr. Phil maybe had a podcast at one point called something Borderline, but
How's
it's
that
spelled
working out for him?
BORDER. So you see a bunch of that. But anyway, BoarderLine, BoarderLine ACL on YouTube, and you'll be able to see it.
All right.
All right. So much to get to. Hey, before we get to too much cornhole, real quick.
Yeah, man.
Did you we make a lot of analogies back and forth between other sports, and you text me something about Ryder Cup, and I hate to admit this. Was Ryder Cup this past weekend?
Yeah.
You know what? Probably for the first time in my life, I didn't watch a second of it. I was up in Minnesota. I had a great time. I just wanted to go see my parents for a few days. Had been a while, so I literally did not watch a second of it. So what got you all fired up? Did we lose? Did we
Of
win?
course. We haven't won there in 30 years on European soil. It'll now be 4 more years where we play in Europe again. So it'll be 34 years. 34 years. It was 1993, the last time we won on European soil. I'm a huge golf fan. To me, in a way, it's better than the majors, right? Because they're not playing for money. They're just playing for country. And it's
Yeah, which I
just,
love. Yeah.
and it's a team format. It's not individual. It's just it's a really interesting way to go about that game, and it's so cool. Europeans just care more when it's over there. They just do. It just means more, and you can tell. I mean,
I
they're
love the
going.
crowds. I mean, when I've watched it in the past, I've loved it. I was just so busy and just totally slipped my mind that it was on this
Oh,
weekend.
I mean, there was drama. Rory almost got in a fight with one of our caddies on the 18th hole. The last. Oh yeah, it's the Ryder Cup.
With one of our own caddies.
Yeah, with what it's different. It's just a completely different thing. If you're not a golf fan, I get it. You should try and watch it because it's one of the events where the crowd, like when it's here in the States, it's all USA, but the crowds also cheer against. You don't really get that in a PGA Tour event, right? Like if a guy misses a 4-foot putt, people don't go crazy like start cheering. Well, they do with the Ryder Cup. If you're pulling against that person and they miss, like you're cheering for them when they hit it out of bounds and they taunt you. And I mean, it's different. It's a completely different vibe, but we may never win over there again. Seriously. And I don't know, like we just don't care enough. Because to give you an example, going into that, none of our players had played for 5 weeks in any tournament setting, while all the Euros had played 2 weeks before.
Mm-hmm.
These are finely tuned. And I mean, to put it into cornhole, if you don't play cornhole for a month and a half, and then you try to go in and play one of the biggest events you'll ever play, are you going to really be ready for that? You're not.
Yeah.
You're not going to be honed in physically. And for our players not to have done that just speaks to we don't care enough. We act like we care enough. Scotty Scheffler, number 1 player in the world, crying after he got done playing on Saturday. Crying because he played so bad. And it was one of the worst defeats in the history of the Ryder. Crying. World number
like
1.
You said, there's no reason to cry about it. I mean, if you don't play, I don't care how good you are. Like you said, I mean, when you're playing against the top of your sport, and again, whether it's cornhole, or whether it's golf, or whether it's the NFL, if you just don't play, and then all of a sudden you expect to just to just flip a switch against the top players. You're right. I agree with you. You just
You know,
can't do that.
and so that just kind of, when we get to the States and we have our crowd and everyone's going berserk, I mean, it's kind of easy to ride that for a little bit.
Yeah.
But to win on foreign soil, which the Euros have done quite a bit over the last 20 years, you have to be in it together. And I think Americans in general have a very hard time, at least in golf, well, in a lot of other sports too, but they're okay taking care of themselves. Right? They can handle themselves when it's their responsibility in golf. They can handle that. But when they're playing for something else and some other person, they struggle. And the Ryder Cup is a teams event, and there's times you're playing as twosomes, and it's different. If you're not a golf fan, you have to check it out. It should be the one thing you do every 2 years. It's a lot
like
of fun.
soccer. Like soccer.
Yeah,
Those who aren't soccer fans watch the World Cup every 4 years.
Right, and it's awesome to watch. But it's me, I am a golf fan, and I'm very invested in the Ryder Cup. I stayed up. It was in Italy, so the matches came on at 1:30 in the morning.
Oh my gosh!
So I stayed up. I kind of adjusted my sleep patterns. So I was up all night Friday, Saturday, and then they teed off
that
5.
explains why I missed it.
Yeah. I mean, NBC was re-showing it in the mornings, but it was, I don't know. It's fun to watch until you realize we're just getting beaten down, and the Europeans are making fun of us, and it's singing songs, taunting us. It's so frustrating.
Well, let's just cross. And I didn't mean to go down this rabbit hole, but let's do it since you brought it up. So the crowds, you mentioned the crowds now a few times there, and this is something that was a hot button for cornhole last year. I mean, do we need to do something with our crowds to get our crowds more animated, and more into it? Because it gets me thinking. Last night, the Minnesota Twins won Game 1 of their series. So by the time y'all see this, we're recording on Wednesday. This will play on Thursday. So by the time you see this, they will have already played Game 2, maybe even Game 3. I don't know if it's a day game or not. But anyway, the Twins won Game 1 of their best of 3 series.
Yep.
And afterwards, Rocco Baldelli, the manager for the Twins, was interviewed, and he said, listen, he said, first off, I got to thank the fans. He's like, this place, I thought this place was going to shake and fall to the ground. The fans were so into it. He said, I just want to let you know, I've been playing this game, and I've been managing this game. I've been in this game my whole life. And I'm going to be honest and tell you, we wouldn't have won that game without our fans. Fans are a big deal. They obviously made a difference, in your opinion, with the Ryder Cup, or can make a difference.
Yeah.
So it just gets me thinking, like, at some point, do we need to do something to get our fans, which which is primarily players, I get it, but do we need to do something to get more, more excitement, more?
We've got to find a way to get other people in. Our players are, when you've got other players and friends and family, they view the game differently. So they're not going to jump up and down. They don't have any type of allegiance to other players. We've got to find a way. And I think that's what the whole teams concept is really based on, is to get average sports fans involved. You were in Nashville a couple of years ago. Those were average people. Now they got them in because of free beer. Do we have to do that? Is that what it's going to take to offer something like that to get the average fan off the street? Yeah. We've got to find a way to get that in, because the way it stands now with other players and friends and family, they're just not really invested until a match gets to, let's say it's 1918, right?
Yeah,
and it's they'll get invested then, but it's going to be sleepy, and through the first part of the match. And if it's a blowout, you're not really going to get much. So I don't know what we do other than, what we did in Nashville. And there were, we were offering free stuff to get people off the street. So I don't know how we do that.
It's like I've always said, we just got to take it to the people. I don't know how we do that. And it's very easy for me to sit here and say it. And I'm sure Fred and I'm sure Stacy and Trey and everyone have heard me say it many times, but we just need to take it to the people. I know it's harder than I make it sound, but it's great when we do it. I mean, you mentioned Nashville. Milwaukee was a great example.
Yep.
We just have to somehow find a way to do that, because it honestly surprises me that we can't get more people there, because, again, as I've always said, I never see anyone walking away from cornhole saying that sucked and I never want to do it again, or I never want to see it. Everyone always loves it. They love our players. They love that they're just normal people who are just really good at playing cornhole. I mean, I think they're fascinated by that. So it's, in my opinion, it's going to come. We just need to just continue to do a good job of positioning ourselves to where it's easy for people to come to see us. And yeah, I'm with you. If you have to incentivize them, maybe you have to do that. I mean, shoot, the minor leagues do that all the time, right? How
Yep,
many minor league games have you and I
100%.
been to over the
Yeah,
years? Dozens. Well, I've been
yeah,
to hundreds because I broadcast them, but
yeah,
you know what I mean.
yeah. I mean,
So
there's every especially minor league like A ball, all minor leagues. There's Thirsty Thursday. I mean, it's almost like how restaurants work. I mean, you're doing whatever you can do to get people in the stands beyond the game, right? And we have to find a way to do that. But a problem is that usually costs a lot of money, and so we've got to find a way. There's got to be some balance. You're right. I mean, taking it to the people, I think, works. We've got to make it to where people that aren't necessarily cornhole fans enter the building, because you're right, they do have fun and they tend to
yeah,
be more emotionally invested for whatever reason, because it's the
yeah.
first time seeing it. I think sometimes the cornhole players and such, there are certain players that people attach themselves to, but for the most part,
There is, isn't there? It's interesting. It's so funny for me to walk from the sidelines broadcasting and see that dynamic. You're right. Like instantly, like Donald Cup randomly becoming a favorite in Nashville. You
right.
know, I mean, yeah, it is fun to watch that dynamic of people all of a sudden finding a rooting interest. It's
Yeah, I mean, and we got to find a way
real.
for people to get excited early. Like if you go to a football game or a basketball game, people are pumped early. First drive means a lot in football. I mean, the fans are going nuts. Our fans tend to, like we said, get riled up when it's 19-18. It's late in the match and people are
Yeah.
loving it, because that you got to be riled up early too, right? I mean, but
The
it's tough.
anticipation.
Yeah, all of it. And I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know what it is we can do. We're in a weird position, I think, as a sport that way, that we tend to do okay on television, oddly enough, but we don't do great in the stands yet. And I'm sure I'm sure this subject has been just
Yeah.
drilled into the ground at the HQ.
Hammered.
Yeah. How do we
Yeah.
do it? Whose fault is it? It's trust me, I've caught my fair share of blame on it. So it's tough. It's a subject I hate talking about, to be honest, because I've taken blame for it. I've had the finger pointed at me, and I don't know. It's like, what do you want me to do?
Well, I
you,
think
you
I
know?
think I think to take. I mean, again, that's just my opinion. To take any of that negativity or pressure off of you. By the way, am I glitching again? My computer's like
I don't think so.
acting up. Okay. Showing me I got a bad signal again. This is the only negative thing about this show. It causes me such freaking anxiety every week with this
Yeah.
damn signal. But no, but to cut to kind of take some of that pressure off of you. Not that it matters what I say, but you know what, Bernie? I mean, it goes back to what we said. Our fans are the players. And how
Yeah.
much of that is your responsibility to get our players excited about a game? They already know, who's playing. They've been playing
Yep.
all day. They've been playing all weekend. I don't think that's necessarily fair to you. I think the DJ has helped, but again,
Yeah.
it's like preaching to the choir. I mean, those people are coming regardless.
Right.
So, if you
Right.
were there and like in Milwaukee, you're killing it, right?
Yeah. It's
Because
fun.
it's all people walking around and drinking beer and coming to watch some cornhole, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden you're the man. So
Right.
I'm not sure that's a fair comparison. If you can't get our players riled up, I'm not sure that's fair. But that's just me. Again, it doesn't matter. All right. We've got so much to get to, and if we don't, I mean, we're boom, just like that. We're 20 minutes in. We run out of time every single week. We still got to talk about teams. We still got to do
Yeah.
our power rankings and on, off, and in. All right, so teams, and I'm with you. I mean, this kind of segues perfect into teams. Great segue about people. Kind of these regional rivalries, a rooting interest that's going to develop. You and I have been just very bullish on teams from the get go, really.
Yeah.
And so I cannot wait for the draft this weekend. And after our meeting this week, I mean, the only thing that I wish is that at some point, I wish that our TV partner ESPN would maybe put this on ESPN3, because and I know it's funny for those of you who are outside the sport, but the ACL Pro Teams Draft this weekend up in Rock Hill is now going to have all the elements of the NFL draft. I get it. It's not the NFL, but we already have trades. I mean, there's
Oh
already
yeah.
all kinds of anticipation over who's going to be the top pick. I love the format. I love, I love the way that they've chosen the order. I love that it's become somewhat of a keeper league. Every team gets to keep their captain +5. I mean, just everything about it, Bernie. I really almost think this is becoming almost like a made for TV. I mean, the 16 teams, all in great cities, with great emotion and really great players and fans. I mean, this is really, I think we're really close that it needs to be not on ESPN or CBS. I get it, but at least on one of their streaming platforms. I think
I agree with you. I mean, what's it going to hurt them to have on ESPN Plus, ESPN3, right?
Yeah,
I mean, granted, they're going to have to come down but I mean, look at what we're doing on our own production wise,
it's going to be huge,
right? And
It's
we're doing
gonna
that
look like the
ourselves.
NFL draft. Yeah,
Yeah, and we're doing that ourselves. We don't have our big production partners involved, right? This is what we're able to do ourselves, and some of our directors and some of our other personalities are helping produce along the way. So it's going to be,
yeah.
it's pretty special what we're doing, and I just don't think it would be that big of a deal. I'm with you for them to, and they would draw. They would
I
get, they would get enough for it to be
yeah.
relevant, you know.
Put it on a Friday night, when there's only maybe a college football game that a few regional people will want to watch. Go up against a Friday night football game. I don't care. I mean, I think it'd be fine. I don't want to go against the NFL or against
No,
on a Saturday, but you put it on a Friday night, it'd be great.
I
Or how
mean,
about a Tuesday or Wednesday during the football season? There's nothing on TV. I mean, I don't know about you. As a football fan, I go into depression on Tuesday and Wednesday nights. I'm like, oh shit, now we got to watch Netflix again.
yeah,
There's no football games on.
yeah. It's funny. Do you think we would outdraw Columbia Lehigh? Yes. Right.
Absolutely.
And that's on ESPN Plus. I mean, I think that, there's space there. It's just, it's another huge cost, even though it is only ESPN Plus, ESPN3. But yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I think it's ready for that. I think it's time to go that direction because think about where we started. You and I, 10 hours sitting on a red couch.
For 10 hours. We sat there so long your pants ripped.
I gained so much weight sitting there that I literally ripped my
Actually, you
pants.
didn't gain any weight because they didn't give us any food. We
That's right.
starved for 10 hours, remember?
And it's funny because we could watch everyone else eat, right? The entire staff is just like walking around with
They're all
plates.
eating pizza.
Just plates and plates of pizza watching us, like literally 15 feet away while I'm just sitting there. You could hear my stomach growling through the microphone. Yeah, but that was fun.
Sipping an ice cold Coke. Just...
Yeah, you guys are good.
Yeah. You guys want anything? That was brutal.
Yeah.
Cruel and unusual. Unusual punishment.
That was fun. Yeah, it has come so long, and this is another huge step. Like you're talking about, that meeting and finding out the number of cameras that we're doing, how it's going to be. You're losing me though. That's got to be pretty upsetting.
Well, no, well, kind of. I mean, you're going to be behind the scenes doing your crowd hype stuff. But what I would like to do though is make sure that, and we talked about this. I think you were gone at the very end of the call, because we do want to bring you on for the broadcast, because I think it'd be good to check in with you at least at the end of each round, just to kind of get your opinions and your flair on what type of trends you've seen. Because I think that's something I've noticed. Like when you're in it, when you're hosting it, and we're just pick to pick. It's hard for me to get like a 30,000 foot view of it.
Sure.
So I think it'd be really interesting to bring you on, because you're going to be able to see some trends. You're going to be able to see some patterns maybe that some of us who are just in it, right? I mean, because it goes fast. I mean, there's only 2 minutes in between each pick.
Yeah.
In the first 5 rounds, and that's going to go fast. So I think it'd be kind of good, to get you in at least after each round, just to kind of get your.
Sure. How about the trades already? Some crazy trades.
I know.
And trading of draft picks and all this stuff going on. And it's already kind of creating some little rivalries, I guess, when you look at some of the trades and what people are giving up, and is this person worth it? And seeing some of the posts, and it's like, why would you keep someone that doesn't want to be on the team anyway? Which is, already some chatter, and it's getting a little chippy because of some stuff. I mean, that's fun.
Is it getting chippy?
Not terribly, but there've been some comments. Not terribly, and some of that stuff might be in fun, right? You don't really know because just seeing something in text form doesn't give you context. So, it might just be a little fun jab that someone's laughing about on the side with their friends. But there's a little, people are getting a little fired up, which is great because we didn't,
Yeah,
each year I think the players have become more and more and more invested. And I think the more regionalized it becomes, the bigger that will be as far as that player investment, because players, will start
sure.
playing for their regions, for their states, in a different sort of way than they are just, it, it it's getting better and better and better. It's fun.
Yeah, no, I just can't wait. And again, for those of you who just kind of casually follow, or you know what, maybe even some of the players out there don't know. I love the way that they did kind of formatted everything this year. So the captain, there are 16 cities or
Hmm.
16, I should say, teams from 16 regions slash cities
Right.
across the country. So 16 players on the team. The captain and five players will stay. So the captain got to choose what five players he or she wanted to keep. So that leaves 10 remaining players. So that makes the draft just a nice, clean 10-round draft, which I love. We'll broadcast the first 5 rounds live on the ACL Digital Network. Again, hopefully one of these days we'll be on a streaming platform on ESPN or something like that, ESPN3, ESPN Plus. But I love that format, and then I love the way that they determined the draft order. In the NFL, I like how they do it, reversed order of how you finished.
Right.
The ACL teams draft will be like that, but not in the first round. So the first round, they're going to take they take the top 6 keepers of each team, and they've gone through to see of those 6 who are kept, who had the best rankings from last year and who had the worst rankings. So it's going to go in reverse order of the remaining 6 players. So like
Hmm.
I was actually just looking at it this morning. So it's what,
Yeah.
Virginia, right? Yeah, the
Yep.
Virginia Cutters. So of the remaining 6 players, even though it's all really good players, the cumulative ranking of those 6 players was less than any of the others. So the Virginia Cutters will get the first pick. And then on the flip side, the Florida Freeze had the highest ranking of the remaining 6 players, so they'll pick last in that first round. And then it'll be and then after that first round, it'll be
They'll
based
stay.
on the way they
Yeah.
finished. Yeah, reverse order how they finished. But I don't know. I just think it's creative. I think it's fun. I love it.
Yeah. I mean,
I think about as fair a way as you can do it, right?
yeah, and I love the way how the ACL tries to stay. I mean, people they take a lot of heat for being, rigid about certain things, but they're always, if there's a better idea and there's a better way to do it, it'll be done that way, right? I
Yeah.
mean, especially, we realize how young we are as a sport, how, especially with teams, this is its third year. If there's a better way to do the draft, let's do it that way. If there's a better way to organize things, let's do it that way. So I love the elasticity
Yeah,
of
me
the
too.
folks in the HQ with their ability to, yeah, you're right. That's a better way to do it. Let's do it that way.
Yeah,
You
if the
know,
consensus says, "Hey, let's do it this way," let's do it.
yeah, that's a
Let's do it.
that's you'd be surprised. I think the people at home would be surprised how very little that happens in the world, right? Like
Well, it
go to
took
your own, go,
baseball. How many years did it take baseball to finally change?
right?
I talked about it in last week's show. They finally changed, and now all the ratings are up. Social media's up. Ratings are up. Attendance is up. Well,
Yeah,
I mean, as of July, with their attendance being up, whatever I said last week, 7 or 9%, it equated to 4 million more fans being in the ballpark
yeah,
because they finally made a change. So again, if you have a groundswell of support and a consensus, change it if it's for the
yeah,
better of the sport. And the
100%.
fact that we are not too stubborn to
Exactly.
make changes is good, and we always have to keep that. I always have to keep that attitude, in my opinion.
No, I'm with you. And a lot of like go to your own business. Wherever you go to work, there's someone in there that came up with the idea in the first place. And a lot of times they're not willing to budge. They're not willing to move like, "Hey, I did this. This
Yeah,
is how I did it and this is how it's going to stay." Well, the world changes. And if you're not changing with the world a little bit, you're going to get left behind. So I think it's kudos really to those guys and really understanding, and girls understanding what's going on and how to
yeah,
kind
for
of
sure,
switch things around.
for sure. But so we kind of touched on it, but man, huge props to Corey and well, I mean, again, I hate to mention names. There are so many people behind the scenes who are putting this
Yep.
TV production on.
Yep.
There's going to be 8 cameras.
Yep.
We're going to have an anchor desk with 4 of us at the anchor desk. You're going to be hyping the crowd. We're going to have Mish at the desk with us, and then she'll also be doing some interviews. We'll have all kinds of graphics. We'll have the best remaining, like we've always had. We'll have the mock draft. We'll have Stacy obviously making the announcements and making the picks. And then the war room now is going to be even better. So you have 16 tables all in a circle. and
Mhm.
each table is going to have basically a jersey hanging from it, and they're going to have cameras in the middle. So, if Tanner's, just mulling over a decision for Vegas,
Vegas.
we'll be able to go to his table and show his table and show them on the phone or on the computer. I mean, it's going to be it's again, it's really getting to that level now where it's really almost going to be like a little made for TV streaming thing that I think
100%.
would be great to have on. So I'm looking forward to it. I really am. Speaking of TV production, before we move on, did you see something? Because you texted me. That was another thing you texted me during the week. Something about TV production. I
I'm
touched on this
trying.
last week. While you remember, I touched on this last week. And again, this is a big shout out to Curtis and to Daniel and to David and Ryan and all the people that we work with at Tupelo. I have gotten numerous comments about some college football production and how it does not look nearly as good as the product that we put on throughout our entire season at our nationals, our shootouts, even in California.
Mhm.
So that's big kudos
Where
to
it came
everyone
from.
involved.
It came from watching the Ryder Cup, watching college football. Like the Ryder Cup, one of the biggest sports events in the world. I don't care if you don't like golf; it is. And because it was in Europe, we were getting the Sky Sports feed, which is like an ESPN in Europe.
Yeah. Yep.
It's awful. It's
Was it
awful.
bad?
It was just awful as far as like following the ball. Where did it end up? What's going? You know what I mean? It was just. It's not. It wasn't even in the same universe as how it's done here in the States. And maybe I'm sure if it would have been a soccer match, it would have been a lot different. But it just wasn't up to par. And then watching some of the smaller college games, as far as not your big CBS 3:30 game, right? It was. It's. I think we should feel pretty good about what we put out there. We've all got
I agree.
hiccups. No one's perfect, but it's up there. Watching some of the mistakes. I mean, knowing what I know now, some of the mistakes that seem fairly basic that I watched, I was like, wow, I guess we do put on a pretty good show. And that's
I
really
think
where
so.
that stemmed from. I mean, it's just so way to go, Tupelo Raycom. Way to go, guys. Because I mean, I watched some people drop the ball all over the place last weekend.
Literally, yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of TV, any feedback on that CBS standalone broadcast that we
I
had
haven't heard yet.
last weekend?
Yeah, I mean, we'll
Yeah,
have
I
to
never
ask
heard.
this weekend. I'm sure they'll
I
have
thought it
some
looked good.
numbers.
I thought it looked good. I thought it sounded great. I mean,
Yep.
that's all we can do on the TV side is make it look good, make it look professional and sound professional.
Yep.
That's going to be a huge point of emphasis, obviously, moving forward, just to be able to compete with all the big boys. But I thought it looked and sounded pretty good. Even though I did have to voice some of that, like we talked about, I had to voice some of those lines literally from this microphone because CBS needed some things changed after the broadcast to tweak it for time reasons. I literally had to
Yep.
voice some of that stuff. I thought it looked good. So I was just wondering if you heard anything about it.
I haven't yet. I haven't.
You know how this business goes. You don't hear anything unless you screw up, right? Then the
That's
emails
the way I would
and the
look
phone
at it.
calls complaining. Yeah,
Yeah, that's the way I would look at it. If you haven't heard anything, they're happy with it.
yeah, right.
Yeah, the moment you say the wrong word or then you're going to find out about it. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
All right. So teams draft coming up this
Mhm.
weekend from Rock Hill. Super excited. Make sure you join us for all the coverage. We got a huge weekend. Really looking forward to the skills competition, like you said, kind of the
Yeah.
combine that from what I understand was Kat Halbert's kind of her vision, kind of her dream to try and put that together. So that's gonna be really cool, especially for people like me to be able to see a lot of these rookies, a lot of the younger players for the first time. Looking forward to that. So, all right, we got to keep moving on. You ready for our first power rankings of 23-24?
I guess so. I guess we have to do this, don't we? Yeah, we'll throw it out there. I'm ready.
Yeah, tough to do because we haven't seen anybody. But again, it's only been what, a month and a half, so
Hmm.
2 months at the most. So I've got a few little surprises in mind. You want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
I'll go first if you want.
All right, let's do
I'll
it.
do that.
Power rankings 23-24.
I mean, look, I cheated. I looked at a lot of, where did everybody finish last season? Who do I think? Are there people that can take that big jump? And it's just so hard. And I don't think people outside the sport, or maybe not maybe kind of they play Tuesday nights at whatever bar they go to, but they don't really follow it. It's one thing to go from 80th to the top 30, and that's a huge jump. It is a monumental jump to go from top 20 to top 10.
Hmm.
And it is a whole different, elevation of your game. But number 10, I'm sticking. He finished 10th last year. I'm going to stick with him. I think he's got a little bit more to prove. I got Joe Neistat as my number 10. Number 9, didn't finish in the top 10 last year. Started out really well. I still think he is that kid. I've got Jake Gore as my number
Okay.
9. I've
Jumping on
got,
my bandwagon with me.
yeah, I think he's going to find a way to get back in there. Number 8, I always have an interesting number 8, rookie class. I'm throwing the whole rookie class out there. I'm interested to see if anyone from that rookie class, whether it be a Ryan Trader, a Sammy Soto, gosh, I'm forgetting names. It's always bad to say names because there's 8 right now on the top of my head that I'm thinking about. But will anyone, and I don't even think they'll make the top 10, but will one of those guys make the top 20? Curious. All right, number 7, Justin Burton Jr.
Wait a second. So who are you putting number 8?
I'm not. I've just got the rookie class.
Oh,
Number
so you're
8.
just saying a rookie.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just keeping an eye on the rookie class. So I'm kind of cheating a little bit on number 8.
Okay, got it.
No, number 7, and I'm not sure because he started out so well last year, but I just don't know, but I've got him at 7, Justin Burton Jr. Talent's there, amazing player. Obviously, first half of the year better than the last half. I'm interested to see if he can kind of keep that form.
Yeah.
Number 6,
should
Caleb,
be a top 10 player.
Yeah, should be Caleb Batson at number 6 for me. I should be right. It's going to hard to continue with that level of play, but should be. Number 5, Devin Harbaugh. Last year, he was my number 1 player leading off the power rankings, but I've got him at 5. Until he finds a way to win a national,
yeah,
I just have questions.
Gotta
But
finish.
can't question the talent, but he's got to be able to finish off one of these huge events.
Yeah.
Number 4, Fisher Hamilton, the big fish. I think he's really starting to make a name for himself as a player. Would not be surprised to see him win at least one national in singles, one in doubles. Would not shock me at all if he wins multiple. And then he jumps up in my rankings. Number 3, Tony Smith. The top 3 literally could have thrown him into a hat, drawn. One of them would have been fine. Right? I think he'd have been fine either way. I got Tony Smith 3, Jamie Graham number 2.
Wow. Okay. I wasn't sure you'd have him that high.
Oh, I think he's back. I think he had
had
some real issues to deal with as far as confidence to start out the season, then off the board stuff. I think he's back. I think he's rediscovered that he is Jamie Graham, that he is that player. A little bit of a bag change. It is a bag change, but I think he's going to be fine with what he's throwing. He's had success with all cornhole in the past. And then you jump to number 1, Mark Richards. The reason I have Mark starting out that way, Mark is a player that's, bringing on extra stuff to his game. Ruthlessly efficient, man. He's just ruthlessly efficient. He's like a Terminator. He's just going to keep coming. He doesn't wow you necessarily with any big shots, but ruthlessly efficient. So I've got Mark Richards number 1 in my preseason top 10.
He's like John Wick. He's just a
silent
assassin.
He's just going to keep coming. He's just going to, bags are going to end up in the hole.
Yeah. So did I not hear Alex Rawls in your list?
You did not.
Wow. Okay.
And,
I try sometimes I think that's. You know what we should do next week? Well,
and it's funny because
I'm not going to give it away.
And it's funny. The only reason I did it because I had him at 11, and the only reason I didn't have him at number 2 because he's been number 2 the last 2 seasons. But the stat that you brought up, and he's kind of an anomaly with the amount of bags that he has on the board.
Very high percent, the highest of all the top ranked players.
It is, and I'm curious to see how sustainable it is. Now, that being said, I like the fact that you brought up Alex because I was going to talk about him as well. It would not surprise me if Alex ends up number 1. Wouldn't shock me. It's not like I've got him.
He was almost there 2 years ago. Yeah. I mean, basically, it came down to he and Mark Richards in Chicago. If Alex would have won, he would have been number 1 after Chicago.
It would not. It's not like I've got him down at 50, right? I've got him right there at 11. I just think the bags on the board with the amount of talent that's out there, it's going to cause him trouble in a few events. And will those events take his ranking down? I think he was able to get away with it last year. I'm not sure he can this year. But like I said, would not surprise me if he finishes 1. Right. So it's not, it's not like I'm not thinking about him. So there you go.
I'm just giddy because you like my bags on stat.
I do. I think that stat matters.
All right, you ready?
Yep.
All right, I got to get to mine quickly here. So ours are pretty much the same, but my top 2, I'm gonna blow everyone's minds with this, and I'm just gonna put myself out there. And you know what? If it's a huge miss, we'll probably even know after next weekend, and I'll eat it next week. Number 10, I'm going Trey Birchfield. I think it was. I hate that. I hate that he left Lucky. That's a big loss, obviously, for Mike Hennessy and for the Lucky brand. However, I think it was necessary. It's good. I mean, as you well know, Bernie, every once in a while you kind of got to change who you are, and maybe make something different happen. Whatever was going on with Trey, and by the way, I'm not saying it was the bags, because Lucky bags are great, obviously, but if you feel like you need to make a change sometimes,
do it.
I guess you got to do it. Obviously, Trey felt like he needed to make a change, and if that causes him to be able to refocus and rededicate himself to the sport, I think that may just be the impetus that he needs to get back there. However, that being said, I totally agree with what you said. To go from top 25, top 30 to top 10 is hard enough. To go from where he's at, which is what? I mean, barely in the top 100, maybe whatever
80s.
he's been at, to go all the way back in the top 10. I get it. It's going to be a huge step, but he is a former world champion, so I'm going Trey Birchfield, number 10. Number 9, Gavin Cano. I was so impressed with Gavin last year. The only thing with Gavin's game, as everyone knows, I think it's just a little bit too much of the block game. I think if he can score a little bit more, get a few more bags in, I think Gavin's going to be right there. So Gavin Cano, number 9. Devin Harbaugh, number 8. I agree with you. He's got to finish. Number 7, Fisher Hamilton. Number 6, Justin Burton Jr. My top 5, Caleb Batson, number 5. I do have Alex Rawls at number 4. Jamie Graham, number 3. Tony Smith, number 2. And, of course, Mark Richards at number 1.
You know what? Thinking about it, I mean, the rookie class thing was just kind of funny. Right, I don't think a rookie's going to finish top 10.
You could be right, though.
I could be, but I'm going to throw Alex. The more I think about it, it's funny. I've gone back and forth on that since we talked about it. And by the way, full disclosure, we decided not too long ago to throw this one into this episode. So I went back and forth with it. I'm throwing Alex at number 8 instead of the rookie class. I'm gonna fit him back in there because you're right. He's too good a player not to have him in there.
Well, yeah, we decided last minute to do this because we thought it'd be fun. Let's just throw it out there, and then we'll see how we did.
Well, the more we talked, the more we talked about it. Like I liked the bags on the board stat that you had, and I started sifting through that in my head, and I was like, that's going to cost him, blah blah blah. But the more I think about it, he's just too good. So he's my number 8. Sorry.
No, I like it. All right, just a few minutes. We got to get to on, off, and in quickly. So on, off, and in.
Did you finish? Did you finish? I don't think you finised. Did you?
Yeah, I said Mark Richards, number 1.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, I mean, I basically, my 2 wild cards were Trey and Gavin. Although Gavin, not much of a. I did have an honorable mention I wanted to get out there real quick. Sure. Logan Chamberlain could be huge. Kyle Malone, obviously. Jake Thor, I'm with you. I had Jake in my top 10 most of
11
last
through
year,
20. 11 through 20 could be top 10.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. So yeah,
totally agree. All right, on, off, and in. You ready?
Yes, sir.
On the board, off the board, and in the hole. You want to start with your on?
Yeah, my on the board, we've already discussed it. On the board, we will not win in Europe in the Ryder Cup until it matters to our players. And they say it matters.
You've mentioned that with teams in Cornhole.
And they bust into tears and all that. Well, if it mattered that much, you would have played tournaments leading up to it, right? You would have taken away from, it's only once every 2 years. You would have taken time to prepare for it. It matters more to the Europeans. So until it matters the same, we won't win on European soil. That's my on the board.
All right, my on the board quickly. And I think you kind of agree on this. I'm trying to remember on our past conversations, but I'm not so sure team chemistry is truly a thing in cornhole. It's nice to have. It's great to play with someone you like. I'm not sure if that's the formula for success. I still think get the best player. Right? Get the best player available. For example, right? And I know this may be a stupid example. We're at Shamar's house, right? I'm playing in my first ever blind draw. And you know what? I get Tanner Halbert. If he's available and I'm not a very good player, I want to take the best available player. Tanner and I ended up winning because Tanner's the best player. It's not because Tanner and I are great friends, even though we are, but it had nothing to do with our chemistry. He's just a great player. So in my mind, I still think, and we'll find out this year because there's a lot of examples both ways. I still think, I'm not sure. It's great to have team chemistry, and I love that. But at the end of the day, I think get the best player, be the best team that you can is gonna reign supreme. But we'll see. All right, off the board. What's your off the
Off
board
the
this
board,
week?
Barbie movie. It's actually really good.
I've heard that.
And the director, Greta Gerwig, is amazing. And there's a lot of subtext that she throws into that movie that maybe, the girls dressed in pink don't really get. There's some homages to Stanley Kubrick that she's thrown in there. It's actually a really well done movie. So I was wrong.
All right, I love that. My off the board, living in Charleston, South Carolina. It's absolute financial suicide. Everything is so freaking expensive here. We went to Minnesota this weekend, right, to visit my parents, like I talked about. We went out for breakfast. I got the Paul Bunyan breakfast. It's the most items you can possibly order. You basically get 2 of everything in the kitchen. It was $7.95. Coffee was an extra. It was an extra 95 cents. I mean, my parents and Kathy and I all ate for $36 with tax. I mean, and again, I had this big Paul Bunyan breakfast. I think Kathy had it too. I mean, we ate like kings for cheap. So yeah, bad move living in Charleston. You know what? Live someplace where you can afford and just take a vacation here. Don't live here because breakfast is not $7.95 in Charleston. All right, what's your in the hole?
In the hole is how pumped up I knew everybody would be because of some of the changes in the 2023-2024 season, how pumped up the players, and you can feel it. It's palpable, and we'll feel it this weekend when we're there. Everyone's super excited to get this season off. It feels a little different. It has a different vibe to it. The way teams has changed, everything. People are pumped up. I'm in the hole on that one.
Yeah, and I loved what you said too about and you've been talking about with the Ryder Cup. What is the buy-in going to be like this year with the players? Because the more buy-in that we get, obviously, the greater this whole event is going to be. And if this is the future of the sport, it really could be huge. So that'll be big. All right, my in the hole, and you know what? Correct me if I'm wrong on this, but doing my top 10, my power rankings, I'm going to give myself in the hole for Jamie Graham last year. I think wasn't I one of the few who continued to have him? I mean, I was dropping him, and at one point I do remember having him outside my top 10. But I think I was kind of always in on Jamie. And I know people make fun of me, and Trey makes fun of me because he thinks I have a man crush on Jamie Graham, and I might a little bit. But I love watching Jamie play. To me, he is the definition of a professional cornhole player. We've talked about this before. There are certain players that I just like to follow. Justin Burton Jr. has become one of those. I just like to watch him play. Noah Wooten, I love watching him play. Matt Sorrells, just because he's one of my OG in this sport, I'm going to enjoy watching him play next year. And Jamie Graham is a guy who I follow. He's a guy that I look up to as far as the game goes, and I don't want to miss when he plays. So I feel like I was kind of in the hole on him last year, and I'm bullish on him again this season. But maybe I was wrong. I don't know.
No, I think you were always. I mean, I think all of us were not off of him as a player. I think we were off of him because you could tell, like, his shoulder wasn't right. There was just some things going on. He wasn't 100%. Sure. But once he's 100%, I don't think. Right on. He's always going to be one of the best on the planet.
Yeah, concerned. You guys were concerned. I just always felt like last year, and I think that's why I had him in my top 10 so much. I just always felt like at some point he was going to make that turn, and obviously he finally did. So, all right, 30 seconds left.
30 seconds. Hey, we're not struggling to get off. Of course, we're getting ready to now that I start talking. It's kind of nice, right?
I know. That's because we finally started about 20 minutes ago doing our top 10 and our off and in because it always goes so long. All right, dude. Hey, I cannot wait for this weekend. Seriously, so excited. Looking forward to all the production and hope everybody tunes in this weekend to watch the draft. It'll be great.
It's going to be a blast, man. I can't wait to see everybody. It's going to be a ton of fun. Get ready. Get ready, rookies.
Get ready. Yes, big weekend for them. Yep. All right, dude. We'll see you this weekend.
All right, brother.
All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks. Bye.
See ya.